Good morning and welcome. I'm Laura Fawcett, a member of the worship committee. My pronouns are she and her, and it's my pleasure to welcome one and all to this in-person and online service of the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Thank you for taking time to be here with us now. We bring all that we are to this moment, this place, this beloved community, knowing that our holy hell. I came from that rally yesterday. Still, knowing that our whole selves are welcome here. And now please settle in, silence your cell phone, and take a deep breath. As we settle into this hour together, I have a few announcements to share. If you are visiting us for the first time, and perhaps are new enough to USNH that you have questions about Unitarian Universalism and our congregation, please grab a bowl of soup. This is Soup Sunday, and some bread or a cup of coffee or tea in the social hall, and join us today in room 209 upstairs on the left for our monthly visitors chat right after the service. This is an opportunity for a quieter chat outside of the social hall. Children are welcome to attend, and it's sponsored by our Connections team, formerly known as the membership team. You'll see included in your order of service a list of those who have pledged so far in our 2025 USNH Pledge campaign. If you're not on the list, it's not too late to make your pledge. We welcome it at any time. Just stop by the stewardship table following the service. We welcome all ages to this space. Know that there's a place in the back with activities and comfortable seating, and the sounds of young people are appreciated as the voices of our future. And please also know that the first few pews on this side of the sanctuary are set aside for those wearing masks. You are, of course, welcome to wear a mask and invited to wear it anywhere in the sanctuary, but it's required if you're sitting in these first 4 rows there. 2 final announcements. Jason Stanley, the author of a book about, fascism, who is a Yale professor who is in the process of or has already moved to Toronto with 2 other Yale professors. He will be speaking on his book this Wednesday, April 9th, here. Please tell all your friends. One moment of levity on a related topic is, out of curiosity, how many people were in any rally yesterday? Wow. I'm sure many of you saw favorite signs. The creativity for the signs was amazing. My absolute favorite on the New Haven Green yesterday was, I didn't even see it, but I heard about it. Things are so bad, even the introverts are here. And they're here today. Final announcement, we have the new to USNH class, which will be starting on Saturday, April 12th. It runs Saturday, April 12th from 9 to 12.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning to all of you. We're glad that you've made time to be with us, to share with us, yes, Soup Sunday, but also just to be together. And we begin with words from Hildegard to begin, the great mystic. Fire of the Spirit, life of the lives of creatures, spiral of sanctity, bond of all natures, glow of charity, lights of clarity, taste of sweetness to the fallen. Be with us and hear us, composer of all things, joy in the glory, strong honor. Be with us and hear us. It is in this spirit that we begin this hour of worship. The chalice is lit. I wanted to say that as you come forward to sing our opening hymn, if you have a particular sorrow or joy in your heart, please come forward to joy to light a candle, or a sorrow to place a stone or shell into the water. And I have a particular joy I'd like to share at the very beginning, before I announce hymn 42, Morning So Fair to See. And that is our own Jamie Johnson. Friday night received full fellowship from the Unitarian Universalist Association and the Ministers Association. This is a very big deal, years and years of hard work. Please offer her your congratulations. Jamie, would you please rise? And we can all celebrate that in our ordination service. That'll be here on June the 7th. Hymn 42, Morning So Fair to See. Please rise as you are willing and able. 42.
Friends, please be seated. My name is Jesse Greist. I'm the coordinator of congregational life here. My pronouns are he and him. I'm not sure about you, but I know one of my favorite things about Unitarian Universalism is that while in many other aspects of our shared journey through this life, when the scaffolding, when the very stories that you were told as a young child begin to get thrown into doubt, whatever it is that you were told as being right or wrong or ultimately true, when those things get cast into a new light of context, when you gain more information, in a lot of ways, that can throw some people into crisis. In Unitarian Universalism, we turn to each other and say, welcome to the ride. I know one thing for me that's an example of this is when I was very young, I had a very set definition of the word success. My elementary education featured a musical called The Good Old 1890s. And to my mind, it actually was a fairly fair representation of what I think a lot of people think of as the time when America was great. The musical featured a song which, when I thought about it this week, surprisingly, the lyrics came right back to me. The song was called The Ladder of Success. And I sat down at my computer and was able to type out these lyrics from memory from when I was in 6th grade. All of us are reading in a brand new book that just came out today. If you've never heard of a Horatio Alger, here's what he has to say. To start you on your way, it just takes prudence, patience, and personality, and you can climb the ladder of success. Yes, 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 yes. Honest labor and punctuality, and you can climb the ladder of success. You can be a Rockefeller, James J. Hill, John Jacob Astor, or a Pierpont Morgan. I'll stop there. So that version of what the word success meant was very much ingrained into my brain, my self, my sense of self as a child. It was further, let's call it enforced by every conversation I ever had with my grandmother Wittenberg, who told me that if you want to be success, there are two things, and two things only you can be. You can be a doctor, or you can be a lawyer. So imagine my surprise when growing up, knowing that that was my scaffold, knowing that in my experience at Ridge Road Elementary School just down the road here, where at the time I attended there was not a single student of color, there was not a single student who was outside of the middle class, when I began to discover that that was not the full picture. That I did not actually, in fact, only find success or only be on a path to success if I started studying for pre-med or pre-law in junior high school. I began to discover things like that time I was walking down the street outside of Peguche in Ecuador, and a woman came around the corner of a building dressed almost entirely in rags, and she had a small baby against her chest, and she was singing and smiling and laughing. Now, I'm not sure that she had in her mind that she needed to be the next Rockefeller or James J. Hill or Pierpont Morgan, but she was eminently happy. How about that time when I brought my kid to school for the first time, kindergarten. And all the kids went around and they said what they wanted to be when they grow up, and I was sitting there as this nervous first-time kindergarten parent, and the kids said things like, I want to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or I want to be an astronaut. And my kid said, I want to be a Lego master. I think what Stephen is going to talk about today is an idea of that when we discover that it's time to break out of whatever schema or preformed idea we have about such concepts as success, we begin to open ourselves up to redefining that term. Instead of honest labor, punctuality, you can climb the ladder of success, we begin to see that that might be one person's path to success, but another person might measure it in the smile on the face of a baby. I might measure it in my years as a kindergarten teacher as that first time a child successfully writes a story that was in their heart. I might measure it when I walk out into the woods and I find that new trees are growing where old trees had been cut down. And I might be the person who planted some of those trees. That just might be success. So I ask you this morning, how do you define success? What does it mean for you? And with that thought, I'd like to invite any children and young people that are here, anyone at all, to come with me and let's find your way to either the childcare or to the classes. And let's sing them on their way with Go Now in Peace. It's in your order of service. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace. Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Covenant lies at the center of how Unitarian Universalists gather in community. We are united not by a particular set of beliefs, but by the promises we make about how we will be together, how we will treat each other, and how we will seek to mend relationships when we fall short of our aspirations. Each week, we recite together a brief version of our covenant. I encourage you to read the full covenant on our website. While the following words express our intentions in writing, our true covenant lives and breathes in our actions. Please join me now in reciting the words that appear in your order of service or in the chat on the live stream. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive to be open, value differences, listen deeply, use kind language, speak our truths, work with conflict, seek humor and joy. Part of our tradition during Pledge Campaign is offering a chance for members to reflect and share about what participation in this community means to them. So I wanted to welcome up David Bates Jeffries.
Hello. So many of you might not know me, as I'm still fairly new to USNH, only now coming up on my second year attending. Those of you that attend Social Hall have probably noted my kids, Marion and Bertie, who are often running around on the stage or just being cute. For introductions, though, my name is David Bates Jeffries. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a father of three, though our youngest is only 2 months old, so hasn't quite made it to Sunday services yet. As you might be able to tell, I'm a big guy. I'm entering middle age and thankfully am generally able-bodied and healthy. I'm currently teaching 4th through 6th grade RE class here, not today, obviously, but I've been exploring with our class how to sing to the power within them. These efforts are a continuation from my youth, from well before I ever knew what a UU was. I personally grew up as a liberal Baptist in the Mystic area and spent my summers leading the American Baptist Church of Connecticut summer camp, Camp Whiteman. While Christianity didn't snugly fit with me, I always enjoyed weighing the big religious questions with my campers and fellow camp staff. For 8 weeks every summer, we worked to form a beloved community in the rocky woods of North Stonington. And while the camp was Christian in nature, I and many others found more spiritual connection to the wilderness around us than in the specific scriptures. Which was fine, as well as it was more of an open and accepting community. For example, even my Jewish best friend from college continued to volunteer there for a couple summers, even after I left to go to Tanzania and serve in the Peace Corps. That is also in Tanzania is where I actually met my wife and learned of her Unitarian Universalist faith that she was raised in. After I chased her around the world for a few years, but before we moved here to New Haven, we were living outside of Chicago, where we got ingrained and attended the Unitarian Church of Evanston. At UCE, I helped out on the Green Team, served a year on the board, but also organized an annual event welcoming people onto the church property every year when the city shut down the major road in front of the church to all car traffic, making it a welcome space for bikers, pedestrians, and everybody to enjoy the city on foot. During this event, I would personally provide bike maintenance while I'd gather volunteers and some RE classes to help set up crafts so that families could come bedazzle their bikes with streamers, ribbons, playing cards to make, your classic thump, 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 thump with their spokes. And then, throughout the year, while you were biking around town, you'd see kids with the UCE decorations on their bike all year. So we're deep into my talk. I haven't talked much yet about directly USNH, but it highlights some of the many reasons I'm here. And why, as a stewardship, I keep pledging to be here. The welcoming, encouraging exploration of Unitarian Universalism is what inspired me, even when I was a rare unicorn, a 30-something male without kids, and I kept regularly attending church. I've always appreciated the mixing pot of a church's beloved community, forming bonds across generations, neighborhoods, and even lifestyles, but knowing that everyone came together with a shared faith and spirit. Alternate perspectives facilitated my work on big questions as a kid and continue to now as an RE instructor. Additionally, I have always appreciated the ability of a congregation to gather a force of volunteers, put on a meal or a large event, like I did at UCE with the Bike the Ridge, or as my kids and I have attended here, just a couple weeks ago at Pi Day, over the summer at the U Olympics, the annual buddy dinner, let alone several more and dozens more I hope to attend with them and share with my kids in the coming years. As I said, I'm a big dude, I'm able-bodied, I'm strong enough to do a whole lot of things, but I couldn't run a single one of these events on my own, nor would I ever wanted to. Facing the large questions, learning to include everyone no matter the pressures of society, staying for what's right against an ever more authoritarian outside world, that all requires the strength of a beloved community, which is of course what we have here at USNH, and reminding us that, we are stronger together.
So Much Happiness by Naomi Shihab Nye. It is difficult to know what to do with so much happiness. With sadness, there is something to rub against, a wound to tend with lotion and cloth. When the world falls in around you, you have pieces to pick up, something to hold in your hands, like ticket stubs or change. But happiness floats. It doesn't need you to hold it down. It doesn't need anything. Happiness lands on the roof of the next house, singing, and disappears when it wants to. You are happy either way. Even the fact that you once lived in a peaceful treehouse and now live over a quarry of noise and dust cannot make you unhappy. Everything has a life of its own. It too could wake up filled with possibilities of coffee cake and ripe peaches, and love even the floor which needs to be swept, the soiled linens and scratched records. Since there is no place large enough to contain so much happiness, you shrug, you raise your hands, and it flows out of you into everything you touch. You are not responsible. You take no credit, as the night sky takes no credit for the moon, but continues to hold it and share it, and in that way be known. And now the USNH choir will treat us to How Lovely Are the Messengers.
It has been a brutal and rough week, and I really seriously considered changing this sermon, although I'd planned to preach on this topic for a long time. But I decided as the week went on, no, actually, it's the right sermon to do in this week of weeks. And certainly, it's a notion of we Americans. What is our actual, real religion? Sometimes I think our actual religion is not Christianity. It is a worship of success, as the world sees success. William James said, "The exclusive worship of the god of success is our national disease." It's not surprising that this is so. Liz and I were watching TV last week, and they had an advertisement, which you can go online and watch, and I dare you, of Paula White, who is head of the White House Office of Faith. And she is advertising that if you give her ministry $1,000, she will send you a Passover Easter crystal cross, and as well, but just for 1 year, your own private guardian angel, which is really a deal. And I seriously thought that we here, because we're in the midst of our pledge campaign, that we could offer, if you give $1,000, you're going to get your own private Henry David Thoreau to live in a shed in your backyard, but only for a year. This theology is called name it and claim it, and it's not surprising that it has its virus in our culture and even in our religion, because it's an old vestige of what the Puritans believed. When the Puritans came to our shores, they had a weird theology that said basically that everything was predestined because God knows everything that's going to happen. And so they looked around at each other and said, who are the people in our community whom God blesses? And the only thing they could come up with is who happens to be the most successful. And it's not terribly surprising. I was shocked when I found this reading from Joshua 2, 7 and 8. Be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe all the law which Moses thy servant commanded thee, for then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So it goes way back. And it's threaded through secular religion and culture as well. We know that. We understand that. This week coming up, it's the 100th anniversary of The Great Gatsby. Published April 10th, 1925, in the midst of the go-go 1920s. And Fitzgerald, who was the chronicler of the worship of the rich, he wrote so many short stories and early novels about how wonderful the wealthy were that he said to Hemingway once, you know, the rich are very different than you and I. And Hemingway responded, yeah, they got more money. And Fitzgerald himself died nearly penniless, an alcoholic in Los Angeles as a failed screenwriter, nearly forgotten. But he left behind The Great Gatsby, which is the true poetic x-ray of the American soul and what we actually worship. All the way back to Benjamin Franklin. If you want to know the one book that exemplifies American culture, it's Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, which talks about how exactly you build a successful life. So there's nothing that's shocking about any of this. But there's no story of an economist who gets up to talk to a group of business people about the recession. She tacks up a big sheet of white paper, And she makes a black spot on the paper with her pencil and asked a man in the front row what that was. And the man replied promptly, a black spot. And the speaker asked every person the same question, and they all said, well, it's a spot. With calm and deliberate emphasis, she said, yeah, there is a little black spot. I just drew it there. But none of you mentioned the great sheet of white paper, the expanse. And that's my speech. So what I want to talk about today is that great white expanse of what has not yet been written upon, which is the ultimate definition. We all know, we all understand what the world tends to see as success. Berry Gordy, president of Motown, said words that really affected me as I began my sermon. He said, many people might say, hey, baby, give me the success, and I'll worry about the happiness afterwards. Unfortunately, says Berry Gordy, it doesn't actually happen that way. Unless you consider happiness before you consider success, then the manner in which you achieve your success will be something that will destroy you at some later date. Many people on their rise to success are so busy running to the top, stepping on their competitors, stepping on their enemies, and saddest of all, stepping on their friends, that when they get to the top, they look around and discover that they are extraordinarily lonely and unhappy. And they'll ask me, Barry, where did I go wrong? And my answer has always been, probably at the beginning. So let's begin. The outer signals that the world gives for success are pretty evident. They're hard to escape. From the Gilded Age that Jesse referred to our age of hyper-gilded excess, where big tech bros tell us how they will rule us and control what we say and do and contact each other. There has always been a temptation to let the world define us and how we think of success, as renown, as power. Now, it's just too easy to say that our financial lives and our comfort somehow should also be addressed in that way. And I have to say that I'm very careful not to do that today, because people have every right to pay their mortgages and to send their kids to college and to have a retirement that is dignified, to have health care. They have every right for these things and to work for them and to save for them. And I will not for a moment in this sermon ever dismiss that right. So that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about success that actually takes away other people's agency. The outer signals of success, pretty clear. Pretty straightforward. But I'd like to talk about, in the big expanse of the white paper, the inner signals of success that are infinitely more vast. And that is to look at life as the development of slow increments of growth, not vast accomplishments that the world will necessarily recognize, but slow daily growth and development. In a recent study, we found that people that appreciate small steps instead of large leaps and accomplishments are 22% happier when they reach the end of their lives. Because life comes to us in hours and days. Go small. Go humble. That is the right way to do it. Pay attention to the simple emotions. If you can quietly understand gratitude and joy, silence, connectedness, then this is a kind of success that the world may not recognize. It is an inner signal, but it is something that will not leave us fragmented, jittery, nervous, and anxious. It will give us a success we may treasure. There's a poem that started this whole sermon. It was written by Emerson. It's entitled Success, and if you take away anything today, take this. You might want to print it up. Post it in your home. Carry it in your wallet. Emerson wrote, "To laugh often and to love much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the approval of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to give of oneself, to leave the world a bit better, whether through a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to have played and laughed with enthusiasm and sung in exultation, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded." To learn to pay attention to issues not of achievement that the world might recognize, but of character. More than the accomplishment of goals, although goals are very important because direction and purpose matter very much. But concentrating on character, that which builds integrity and self-regard and respect for others. You can't do very much about the IQ you were born with or the range of talents you possess, but you may build a soul. In fact, that is success. And don't let others define your ultimate sense of self. The world is just too slippery for that. I found a brief paragraph from Edith Wharton in her book, The House of Mirth. And the character is talking to our protagonist, Lily Burt, and success, what is success, Selden asked. I shall be interested to have your definition. Success, Lily hesitated. Why, to get as much as one can out of life, I suppose. It's a relative quality, after all. Isn't that your idea of it? My idea of it? God forbid. He sat up with sudden energy. He rested his elbows on his knees, and staring out the mellow fields, he said, my idea of success is personal freedom. Freedom, said Lily? Freedom from worries? From everything. Freedom from money and from poverty and from ease and anxiety, from all the material accidents, to keep a kind of republic of the spirit. That is what I call success. Man, I was knocked out when I saw that sentence. A republic of the spirit within your soul. As Thoreau said, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams and endeavors to live the life that you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. To have a sense of freedom that rises above appetites and drives. A sense of freedom that rises above appetites and drives. As I conclude, this doesn't need to be a long sermon, because this stuff is actually pretty simple. It's not easy, but it's pretty simple. The path to this kind of republic of the spirit, this self-knowledge, to small, steady growth, to generosity and giving, to gratefulness, that is success. It's a story that the spiritual searcher, the sannyasin, had reached the outskirts of the village and settled down under a tree for the night when a villager came running up and said, the stone, give me the precious stone. What stone? Asked the sannyasin. Well, last night the Lord Shiva appeared to me in a dream, said the villager, and told me that if I went to the outskirts of the village at dusk, I would find a spiritual searcher who would give me the precious stone that would make me rich forever. The sannyasi rummaged in his bag and pulled out a stone. He probably meant this one, he said. I found it in a forest path some days ago. You can certainly have it. The man gazed at the stone in wonder because it was a diamond, probably the largest diamond in the whole world. It was the size of an apple. And he took the diamond and clutching it in his palms, he walked away. And all night long, the villager tossed and turned about in bed, unable to sleep. And the next day, at the crack of dawn, he went back and he woke up the sannyasin and said, give me the wealth that makes it possible for you to give that diamond away so easily. Success is not in what we own, but what we don't allow to own us. Personal freedom, yes, but more. To be free to connect the world so that we can not only be free to give away a diamond, but to be a diamond. Clear, multifaceted, ultimately so beautiful, but made beautiful by the deepest pressures that life can bestow. To give us the inner desire and patience to live so as to help one life, many lives, breathe a bit easier. Yeah, I think that's the message I wanted to give this week. Amen. How about a little Robert Frost? Hymn number 64. Oh, give us pleasure in the flowers today. swirling round the perfect trees, and make us happy in the darting bird that suddenly above the bees is heard. The meteor that thrusts in needle bill, and often blossom when midair stands still. For this is love, and nothing else is love, the which it is reserved for God above to sanctify to what far ends he will, but which it only needs that we fulfill. Laura, if you come forward and join me in the words in your word of service as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now may peace, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge of love. And may this peace be yours in the week to come, and until we meet again. Amen, and go in peace.
The service began with a severe reprimand, but I've got to say you were great today. So let's go have a soup and buy books. Enjoy each other.